No, it's incredibly disappointing. But to say that they failed because they didn't get there, this is March Madness, all right? This is a one and done. It is the biggest roll of the dice, which is why everybody loves to fill out brackets that you can find. And they dominated this game for the better part of the 40 minutes. And they simply came up against a Houston team that has done this to all kinds of teams all year long. They lost to a great Houston team who basically just wore them down. And their will, I love the way Charles Barkley said it. It was will versus skill, and will won out in this particular game. They wore them down, and that pressure got to them ultimately in the final seconds, and that was the difference. But I look at how Duke played and over the course of the tournament, and I have to give them credit. They were great, and they dominated this game for the better part of it. They wilted against that pressure. I've seen plenty of great teams do that.
This is a complete failure.
Thank you.
When you
Wow!
No, seriously, Rick, when you play for programs like Duke, Kansas, Carolina, there's expectations that come with these programs. I played on a team at Kansas. We were the #1 seed. We didn't win the national championship. It was a failure. When you go to these schools, top players go to these schools not only for an opportunity to maybe end up in the draft, but for an opportunity to win a national championship.
This is you as a player. Like, if I am on Duke, I feel like I failed. I wanted to win a championship. But if you're asking me from the outside, someone observing it, to judge it and say, you know what, Duke failed because they didn't get there, I don't feel that same way. I understand how somebody on the inside
all season long when we pass up and not showing these other talented schools, but I feel like every week we put Duke on TV. We put Duke on a pedestal. And there's certain teams we do that. How many times have you seen Houston on national television this year? You don't. You see Duke. So when I see that they didn't make the national championship game and the way they lost, it's a failure.
You know what? When the Boston Celtics lost to the Golden State Warriors
it was a failure.
in 2022, that was a failure.
That was a failure.
Because
when we lost to the Lakers in 2010, it was a failure.
But would you say, without question,
it's just certain organizations and schools, they at this level.
But there's multiple like that. Would you say going into the tournament that Duke, everybody looked at it, if Duke doesn't win the tournament, they've failed, that they were the odds-on favorite to win the tournament?
When I looked at the Final Four and I saw Houston, I saw Duke, I saw Florida, and I saw Auburn.
Yeah.
Well, I'm more familiar with Duke than these other teams.
Okay.
If you say, here's your bracket, these 4 teams.
Just on the outside in.
Yeah, I'm looking, I'm like, oh, that's an easy one, Duke. Okay. I'm picking them based on their prestige, based on the best player in the country, based on everything that comes with Duke. That's just what it is.
I filled out 2 brackets.
All your brackets had Duke in there.
I had Florida beating Duke, and I did 2 brackets. Florida beating Duke, Florida beating Houston. For me, Florida was the team.
In the national championship, though.
Yes.
Right. So it's a failure. They didn't make the national championship.
In one of my brackets, it was.
I thought the failure was the last 40 seconds of the game, where they went on a 9-0 run. Like, that to me was outrageous. And just watching, I thought at that point, I think Shari got totally outcoached by Coach Sampson. And when they had the first possible 5-second call, which they didn't call it, he wanted to see a replay, and you can't really review that. So he took that as a timeout opportunity. Like, that was an old school move. And for the fact that they could not inbound the basketball for that period of time, and they kept running, just from watching the game, it felt like they kept running the same inbound play. They could not beat man press. What was funny is I just watched the Florida game. They had a different inbound play where it almost like they were running 7-on-7 football. And so for me, I thought those last 35, 40 seconds, Duke got completely outcoached by Houston. And that's where, for me, that's where it became a total failure, because this is high-level basketball. To have a 9-0 run with that much time left and then actually just lose the game. I mean, they were still in position. Like, he could have made that jump shot. He makes that shot. Oh, that's his #1 shot all year, and he misses that. Sure, but those last 35 seconds, it becomes situational ball. And I think that's where it became a total failure for me.
Originally, I didn't think so, but then after listening to Paul, I changed my mind because he is right. You go to blue blood
Right. These schools are expectations.
to win a championship. And anything short of a championship, John Shire, since he's been a head coach at Duke, 79-0. 79-0 when leading by 10 points at any time during a game until Saturday. And then all of a sudden, the collapse happened or whatever situation took place. But you go to Duke to win a championship.
Right.
And get a good education for those that go 3, 4, 5 years. Most of the guys that are NBA caliber guys can't find a library because they're not on campus long enough. So, you know.
But we're in a different era when it comes to college basketball right now. We're seeing it shift because of the NIL money. Guys are staying.
Yeah, but they still,
much
they
longer.
still was in the mix though. Duke was right there. NIL money, no matter what,
without question.
They were still right there.
Without question, but that's why the Houstons in particular are a force now and a force to be reckoned with. And
because
they're not a Cinderella team. I mean,
but you can
they
go
were right there last year.
But you can go get veteran players. If you look at a lot of these teams that are in the tournament, they have veteran players with that 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 year, 10 years.
But Tito's on record saying like, I can't get a high school kid to replace this veteran.
No, you
I gotta
can't
go
do
to the
it.
portal.
You can't do it. You get more value in winning with older players that are not one and dones because they sticking around because their NBA future is probably not as bright,
not as guaranteed.
It's not as guaranteed as a dude like Cooper Flagg, for instance.
Right.
So, Paul, does the collapse that, I don't know, I guess you want to call it a collapse,
Super collapse.
impact your view of Cooper Flagg and his ability at the next level?
No, it didn't really keep, guys, I never view Cooper Flagg as like a superstar. I know he's a really good player, and what I mean by that, he has the IQ, he has all the intangibles, he can shoot, he can do this, but I think he's going to be a really good player. I don't look at him as a generational talent. He could possibly be an all-star, contribute on a championship team, and, I could be wrong, because when it's just certain guys, you just say, oh, man, he's a generational talent. You just know. Like, you see Wembanyama, you're like, this guy is definitely going to change the game. Is he going to be an impact player? No doubt. Will he be an all-star? Maybe, maybe
probably.
not. I mean,
possibly.
Maybe not. I mean, the game changes when it gets to the next level. So it's a number. I've seen a lot of number one picks that just
Fizzle out.
it happens a lot. It's an adjustment period that you got to make, and but it didn't impact my view of him. I still think he's a really good player. I think he should go number one. And if he gets in the right situation, then, maybe sky's the limit for him, though.
Yeah. There's a few guys that no matter where they went, they would be great.
Right.
And it's usually because they're still just touching their potential.
Yeah.
They're really good, but they've got a lot of room to grow. That's the thing with Cooper is, like, he's so fundamentally sound.
Right.
He's so good in so many ways. I don't think he's, like, an elite athlete. So my question is, how much better is he going to get? How much is he going to grow? He's going to get better, no doubt. But when I look at a Wembanyama, or you look at a LeBron James, or even like a Kobe Bryant, like, those guys were so elite in terms of their athleticism, or a Giannis Antetokounmpo when he comes in, because that's the other thing. Because, well, he's only 19. It's like, yeah, but he already has a really mature game. So how much better is he going to get at the next level? Yeah. And for him to get better, for him to be elite and like a franchise cornerstone type player, he's got to have more than he's got.
He's certainly an all-star level player. There's no question about it.
He
but when
can
you start,
be. He can be.
I'm assuming he grows over the next 4 years in an NBA system that will allow him to be that type of player.
Yeah,
when you mentioned some of those other guys, Rick, all those guys were projected as the next faces of the league and taking over for whether it was Jordan or Kobe or LeBron, and they were just the Wemby. All of a sudden, we've never seen this.
Some people have done that with Cooper. Some people,
really?
Yeah. I'm not. There's been some of that. I'm curious, if Cooper was your best player, do you see him, Paul, winning a championship?
I'm not sure if he can be your best player on a championship team.
He can be part of it.
He can be a part of it. Because there's nothing like really transcendent about him. He's going to be, what, a 4-man in the league? Is he a 4, a 3? I mean, he'll transition
three,
around
4.
around there. I think he'll be an elite defender. I mean, My comparable to him was Andre Karolinko. And Andre Karolinko was a really good player in the NBA. One of the best defenders. He was an all-star in the league maybe once or twice. But, I mean, Andre AK was one of them guys that you didn't want to play against. And so can he get to that level? Potentially can. He has more offense, I believe, than Karolinko. He shoots the ball a lot better, but he has all the intangibles. So, you know, it just depends on how hard he works, right situation, right coach, and everything else is like, you know, like he's one of those guys I say he has to be in the right place. I'm not sure he can go to any of the 30 teams and be like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, my pro comp for him is Paul Pierce, actually.
a lot of people said Jason Tatum.
I'm not seeing that.
Yeah, me neither.
I'm seeing a cross between Kirilenko and Tony Kukoc.
Okay.
And you know what? You know what's interesting is, as an American player, like, he makes me think of Euros. His game, because it's so fundamentally sound. He can do everything.
Right.
I think he's very mature, but he's still a baby. And I feel like maturing just his game, just physically and more emotionally when he gets in the game, that's going to help him. That's why, in terms of your point, like, he's going to be good, but is he – I'm not putting anybody in LeBron James' category when it comes to, you know, being a rookie, how athletic he was. But if he's in the right situation, I can see him doing well being an all-star.
Yeah, we'll take him with the Lakers if nobody else wants him.
Subscribe here to get the latest from Speak, and go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.